Imagine cruising your car straight across the ocean, leaving the ferry behind forever, driving from the heart of Australia to Tasmania like it's just another stretch of highway. It sounds like something out of a futuristic travel documentary, a wild what-if that feels impossible at first whisper. But history itself hints that this idea isn't entirely born from fantasy. Thousands of years ago, long before maps, engines, or asphalt, the island we now call Tasmania wasn't an island at all. It was a natural extension of the mainland, a corridor of earth and grass that the First Nations people once crossed freely, following seasons, stories, and survival. Then the oceans climbed, slowly, silently, swallowing the land beneath. And around 12,000 years in the past, the connection vanished, turning Tasmania into a world apart, surrounded by unpredictable waters and roaring winds. Since then, the dream of reconnecting the two lands has resurfaced again and again, like an idea that refuses to die. In the 1950s, planners sketched bold visions fueled by hope that better access could turbocharge Tasmania's economy. In the 1990s, the conversation returned, driven by financial strain and the need for stronger national integration. And today, the same topic echoes across forums and think tanks, now tied to a modern pain point: the rising cost and inconvenience of ferry logistics. Engineers have tested theories, studied waves, depths, and seabed mysteries, but nothing has stepped beyond the research stage. Yet even without official approval, nearby projects like the massive undersea electricity link between Victoria and Tasmania prove one thing clearly: the focus on connection is real. The ambition is alive. The scale, though, is mind-bending. Three routes dominate the conversation. The first cuts straight across the Bass Strait, a 240 kilometers ocean gap at its narrowest point, the shortest line on the map, but the fiercest in reality. The waters there are a battlefield of storms, deep trenches, and unpredictable moods. The second option leans on Flinders Island, using calmer, shallower waters to break the journey into a more buildable puzzle. The third pivots toward King Island, a strategic midpoint that shortens the distance and softens the engineering chaos. Both island-assisted routes come with advantages, but they also demand new roads, new support systems, and new environmental negotiations. If the project ever graduates from paper to physical form, two possibilities rise to the surface: a mega-bridge stretching farther than anything the world has ever seen, or an undersea tunnel threading through one of the harshest marine corridors on the planet. To grasp the absurdity of the scale, consider this. The longest sea bridge on Earth, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau link, spans 55 kilometers. What's being imagined for Tasmania is more than 4 times longer, battling rougher seas and a more hostile foundation. A bridge would likely take the form of a suspension or cable-supported giant, held by multiple towers drilled deep into rocky seabeds. It would need to wrestle against hurricane-level winds, relentless waves, storms that sound like thunder, and even the possibility of ground tremors shifting beneath its feet. Every tower would be an engineering war won, not just a construction milestone. Then there's the tunnel scenario. The longest undersea tunnel today, Japan's Seikan Tunnel, stretches 53.8 kilometers. The Channel Tunnel linking the UK and France comes close at 50.5 kilometers. A 240 kilometers submerged passage beneath the Bass Strait would dwarf them both, potentially rewriting world records entirely. To survive the journey below, engineers might combine multiple techniques. Prefabricated immersed tunnel sections for the calmer, shallow zones, massive tunnel boring machines chewing through dense rock layers, and for the deepest or unstable regions, a concept that sounds like science fiction. A floating tunnel held suspended in the sea itself, anchored by buoyancy, a structure that doesn't fight gravity, it negotiates with it. But let's talk about cost, the heavyweight champion of all obstacles. Japan spent around $7 billion on its 53.8 kilometer sea tunnel. Scaling that to 240 kilometers, in harsher waters, with more complex geology and newer tech, the bill could climb past $40 billion. A bridge, even more extreme in materials, towers, weatherproofing, and longevity planning, might surge beyond $80 billion, possibly more. And unlike buildings on land, ocean infrastructure ages in battle, demanding constant care, monitoring, and protection. And money isn't the only currency at stake. The ecological toll could be staggering. On land, Tasmania shelters some of the world's most unique and protected species. The Tasmanian devil, the swift orange-bellied parrot, wildlife found nowhere else. Beneath the waves, southern right whales migrate through these waters, dolphins patrol the coasts, and marine life thrives along sensitive seabed ecosystems. Construction noise, sediment displacement, and structural presence could ripple through habitats, disrupting generations of life that never signed up for modernization. Despite the chaos of obstacles, the payoff side of the argument shines equally dramatic. Tasmania produces world-class exports, wine, dairy, seafood, goods that currently travel through expensive and weather-dependent sea logistics. A permanent link could slash transport costs, stabilize supply chains, ignite tourism, and invite national and international investment. More visitors, more business, more opportunity. It could shift Tasmania from isolation to integration, from scenic detour to accessible destination. Right now, the vision remains distant, a whisper of possibility rather than a funded mission. But technology evolves fast, sometimes faster than politics, budgets, or public belief. What feels absurd today can feel inevitable tomorrow. Undersea links are already being built. Innovation keeps stretching limits. The ground for bigger dreams is slowly being reinforced. One day, maybe not soon, maybe not in our immediate future, the ocean gap could be bridged or tunneled, reconnecting lands that were once united by nature itself. When that day comes, it won't just change the map. It will change the momentum of a region, the rhythm of movement, and the meaning of connection itself. The idea hangs in the air like the echo of a challenge, daring the future to prove the present wrong. It's not just about engineering, or economics, or records waiting to be shattered. It's about rewriting the relationship between separation and possibility, between what once was and what could exist again in a new, man-made form. Picture the moment construction begins, not with noise, but with anticipation. Ships positioned like chess pieces over a restless blue expanse, cables thicker than tree trunks descending into the sea, sensors scanning the ocean floor for answers it has guarded for millennia. Every bolt tightened above the water would carry the weight of skepticism overcome, and every meter carved below would carry the quiet triumph of persistence. There would be days when the strait winds, when winds scream louder than planners can strategize, when waves strike like nature's rejection letter. But there would also be dawns when the water calms just enough to allow progress, moments when ambition sneaks forward between storms, measured in grit instead of kilometers. And when the final segment locks into place, whether it's bridge or tunnel, it won't feel like a finish line. It will feel like a handshake between eras, a statement that isolation is a condition, not a destiny, a reminder that geography can shape history, but it doesn't have to imprison the future. The real magic of such a link wouldn't be the structure itself, it would be what moves through it. Trucks carrying the produce of cold Tasmanian mornings toward bustling mainland markets, families driving south for weekend escapes without checking ferry schedules, tourists discovering that the journey is now part of the destination, not a barrier before it. Conversations shifting from can it be done to how did we ever live without it? For now, the vision remains in the realm of daring, not deployment. But daring is where every monumental story begins. Before every world wonder, there was disbelief. Before every mega-project, there were more reasons to abandon it than build it. And yet, the built world keeps expanding, because ideas stubborn enough eventually find hands capable enough to shape them. Maybe this project takes 10 years to approve, maybe 30 to begin, maybe 50 to complete. Or maybe it waits quietly until a breakthrough shrinks the impossible just enough for momentum to take over. No one can promise the date, or the design, or the budget ceiling. But one thing is certain. The dream isn't fading. It's evolving, sharpening its voice every time the world builds something longer, deeper, or braver than before. And that's the real pulse of progress. Not the structures we completed, but the audacity of the ones we haven't yet built. Picture this. Your car gliding south, past the final highways of mainland Australia, without slowing, without waiting, without boarding a ferry. The wheels never stop. The journey never pauses. The ocean becomes just another chapter in the drive. It sounds unreal, almost cinematic, like a future that belongs more to movies and infrastructure. But the irony is powerful. This future once existed in nature itself. There was a time when the waters didn't divide Australia and Tasmania. The land did the connecting. Ancient footsteps crossed freely over a natural bridge of soil, wind, and survival. The first peoples moved across it not as travelers, but as storytellers of the terrain, guided by seasons, songlines, and life's rhythm. Then the tide rose, slow but unstoppable, swallowing the corridor whole, rewriting the geography with silence. And 12,000 years ago, Tasmania exhaled its final connection to the mainland and became an island, held at distance by the roaring Bass Strait. But distance has a strange effect on human imagination. The longer something stays separated, the louder the question becomes. What if we reconnect it? Not by nature this time, but by ingenuity, steel, and persistence. The idea of a permanent link has returned again and again across decades, not as a finalized mission, but as a recurring heartbeat of possibility. It was spoken about in the 1950s, revived in the 1990s, and now re-enters a conversation in the modern age, where ferry costs climb, logistics strain, and convenience feels overdue. On paper, 3 routes whisper the most potential. The direct line across the Bass Strait, 240 kilometers of open ocean, short in distance, brutal in temperament. Then there's Flinders Island, a stepping stone surrounded by calmer, shallower waters, promising easier engineering but demanding extra infrastructure. And finally, King Island, positioned like a midpoint compromise, shortening the span, softening the challenge, but still sitting over a seabed full of questions. And the engineering options themselves sound like fiction turned technical. A mega bridge towering above some of the wildest waters on Earth, likely a suspension or cable-driven titan, anchored by countless support towers drilled deep into rocky seabeds, built to wrestle hurricane winds, ocean storms, and even a faint threat of seismic whispers beneath the waves. Or a tunnel carved into darkness below, longer than any undersea passage ever built. A structure that might require multiple tunneling techniques, prefabricated in most sections for stable zones, tunnel boring machines grinding through rock, and perhaps even floating tunnel segments suspended by buoyancy in the deepest waters. But then reality lands at hardest punch. Cost. A tunnel alone could climb past $40 billion. A bridge might rise beyond $80 billion, not just a build, but to defend forever against the ocean's wear and weather's brutality. And even money bows to a deeper responsibility, environmental consequence. These waters carry whales on ancient migration routes, dolphins through tides of instinct, fish through ecosystems finely balanced. And on land, Tasmania protects species found nowhere else, creatures shaped by isolation itself. Any connection built here must be built with negotiation, not disruption, demanding some of the most detailed environmental safeguards ever written. Yet, the reward side glimmers just as dramatically. Imagine trucks carrying Tasmanian produce, dairy, wine, and seafood, moving faster, cheaper, and more reliably to mainland markets. Imagine families planning weekend trips south without ferry schedules shaping their freedom. Imagine tourism exploding because the journey itself becomes effortless. Imagine investment pouring into a region no longer defined by separation, but by access. This connection could transform not just trade, but momentum, identity, and opportunity. But even if this megastructure waits decades more to begin, it already serves a purpose. It reminds us that geography influences history, but innovation influences destiny. What feels unreachable today can feel inevitable tomorrow. The world keeps building longer bridges, deeper tunnels, and smarter technologies. One day, engineering might finally grow large enough to make this idea feel less insane and more overdue. For now, the ocean still separates the lands, but the dream still connects them. And dreams like this don't disappear. They sharpen. They evolve. They wait for the generation bold enough to say, "We start now," because the map isn't finished. It's just waiting for the next stroke of human courage.